I was robbed of my chance to give a flowery intro. Please welcome Kristen Stewart.
Sorry,
No.
I can't stand quite easily.
Oh,
my
that's
ankle the other
that's.
day. You want me to introduce myself?
Please, yeah, no. It's, I think everyone
I was in
here.
that.
That's right. And well, I guess I can still. It's a little more embarrassing to do it with you right here. But let's just set the scene a little bit.
Embarrassing for me.
No. So, this lady's been acting since you were what age?
9.
9. Okay, so by far the majority of her life, yeah. And I think I will say has not always been fully appreciated for how good she's been until really this year when, fortunately, let's just go through it. First American actress ever to win a César Award, Frances equivalent to the Oscars. And a handful of Critics Awards, including tomorrow night, she will receive the New York Film Critics Circle Award for Best Supporting Actress. And onwards and upwards, so very happy to have you here. And let's talk to begin with about how this project first crossed your radar.
I worked with a producer named Charles Gilbert, who did On the Road, and he was interacting at that point with Olivier Assayas, who directed the film, and really championing his work. And he's a really young producer, which is awesome because it's fun to see young people be forward and risk takers and like actually successful at doing so. And I had done that with him once, and then he introduced me to not only Walter, who directed On the Road, and then Olivier subsequently. So he sort of put me in contact with some of the most incredible people I've ever worked with. And I read the script. It was pretty traditional in terms of how it came together. I kind of missed the mark at first. In this really like unorganized, in a good way, sort of instinctive process of putting a movie together. Olivier didn't think that I liked it because I didn't call him at midnight the moment I read it. I was like, I don't know, maybe we'll call my agent or something because that's how it works. And he was like, I didn't think that you liked it. And I was like, I love it. I think that we should talk about it. And we did a Skype call, and he was talking to me about Chloe's part for a long time. And the whole time I'm talking about the other part, and all of a sudden we realized that we're not having the same conversation. And I was like, no. There's like really only one part I should be playing in this movie. And yeah, that's it. And then
well, let's talk about, I mean, why is it that you responded so much to this part of Val, which I think makes sense in retrospect. Maybe it didn't to him at the time, but break it down why it clicked with you.
I had just literally missed the opportunity to play that part. He thought of, he wanted me to play the part, and then I didn't answer for a while, and so he thought I wasn't interested, therefore it went to someone else, and then I called back and fervently was like, what? And so he was like, oh, we can work it out. Luckily, literally, just kismetly, naturally, thank God, like the stars aligned, and for whatever reason, I was able to, both schedules aligned, and I ended up getting the part. And, you know, if I played the Joanne part, it would be interesting and fun, and I still would have done it. I would have catered to this movie. But it just would have been, like, fun. It would have been fun. It's just that I could kind of, sort of at the same time, play both parts if I was able to play Val, because the only way that to really interestingly and like knowingly convey something, I just coincidentally happened to be the perfect mouthpiece for some of the information that is conveyed by my character about another character. So if I played Chloe's part, it would have been sort of ironic and funny and interesting and whatever, but there was so many more layers to sort of look through with the other part that it was just better.
And it was also kind of an opportunity to vent a little bit about subjects that, right? I mean,
it would have been an opportunity to vent playing her part too,
right,
but
right.
It's just so much more fun to actually vent directly. Like literally to be able to say the words
right.
was nice.
Stepping back for one moment, what is it about, I mean, you at this point can kind of pick your projects and size them and whatever for the most part, and why is it that time after time, with the exceptions of the Twilight movies and Snow White and the Huntsman, you have gravitated towards indies. These are, you know, craft services is not as good. There's a lot of things that are more challenging about doing them. But you come back, you did it before, you did it during, and you've done it since the Twilight movies. So what is it that draws you to them?
When you're trying to like figure out what you should be doing, how you should be spending your time, you know, it should never be something that you have to deliberate on a whole lot. And I've chosen each project I've ever been a part of like really instinctively. I've always thought so surely that I should be doing or involved in whichever given project I happen to be working on at the time. When it comes to like the size of stuff, everything that you look for in a bigger movie, or everything you look for in a smaller movie, is what you hope that the bigger movie has. It's like you want to work with people that just stir you up and just absolutely motivate you in the most innate, like just make you want to do anything. Every day you wake up, you just feel like you would give your all to something. And so if you don't have that on a bigger movie, you shouldn't be doing it. And it's just that they're more rare, because it's a, you know, again, it's like a bigger risk to take. And so I've only done a couple big ones because it only ever felt right to do those ones. And yeah.
And this one, I think, was it $6 million? It's a tiny movie, slow, like short schedule. In a lot of ways, it could only have been made in Europe, right? There's a lot of things about it that Hollywood just kind of runs in the other way from. Can you maybe talk about what some of those might be?
Yeah, I mean, the movie's like, you know, about two women sitting in a room talking to each other, which doesn't seem like on paper very exciting. Therefore, you like can't sell it. So, you know, Olivier's sort of weight and significance in Europe gave him the opportunity to have a really big budget. Like, considering what the movie's like, it should have been, here it'd be like $1 million movie. He did it this really classically, stunningly beautiful, indulgent way. And usually in the States it would be like, you know, there are small movies, and those are like the raw, gritty, hard to tell story movies. And then a little bit up from there is like slightly more commercial, so we'll give you more money, but you have to be a little bit like more tame. So just the fact that, and not tame in terms of like something that's like shocking, but just tame in terms of like being different, or being something that's not easily digestible, or like, you know, easily, you can't put like, you can't sum it up very easily. So it just wouldn't happen here. You know, the fact that he's from there is actually like you would never be able to, yeah.
So you've also said that in many of your movies you played very quiet, introspective characters. This is a character that has a lot to say, and you know, just as an actor, how did you feel about that in terms of the way you approach learning your part, learning your lines? I mean, there are some long, drawn-out exchanges here, and you know, do you sit in the bathtub sort of just repeating them, or what's the technique?
That's what you would do.
That's what I would do.
The way that me and Juliet worked off each other was like defined the dynamic that we had in the movie. We got lucky. You know, I'm this sort of younger American perspective, and she's this established, really European, you know, she works. Everything's like, her preparation is a huge part of what goes into doing a job for her, and I'm just like, I want everything to happen by accident. And so I didn't learn my lines. I never did. I have, I'm really lucky. I loved the script, and so it's just easy for me to remember stuff that I like. You know, I wouldn't look at a scene until the morning of, and I had Juliet like chasing me around set, trying to run lines with me, and I was like, "Don't ever say that to me again. I never want to hear that again until we were like rolling camera." So I didn't approach it any differently. I didn't have anything to learn. I didn't have to bring anything that I didn't. You know, I didn't have to fabricate anything. It was all there. So I just trusted the process.
And the thought process behind that is just you don't want to be over prepared in a sense so that it feels rehearsed, or like it doesn't feel spontaneous?
Yeah, you know, the first, you cannot beat that first experience, you know, and even if you can, even if it's just my perception, even if it's just like, you know, it didn't feel as good for me that time, that's what I want to be, like, there should be an experience that should be shared. Like, you know, if I'm really discovering something and stumbling upon some idea or some emotion or feeling that, you know, maybe we knew about before we started the movie, but that was still naturally found, it's so much better than watching someone like put something together, figure something out, and then show you what they've learned. You know what I mean? It's like, so I always feel like if we rehearse too much and I think about things too much, I just have to trust that initial burst of thought and energy that went into being inspired in the beginning, and just rely on that. And then when the day comes, you're gonna feel it so much more, instead of like dissecting it and really memorizing it and learning it. Yeah, it's like lightning in a bottle, you know, like whenever anything happens on set that's really just fantastic, and not in terms of being like, oh, that was good, but just something that feels great, something like everyone learned something, everyone's like moved by something genuinely. Nobody can take credit for that shit. Like literally every single person that was there that day had something to do with the fact that it happened to go like that. And so you just can't rehearse that.
Yeah. So how does that work though for somebody like Juliet, who's she rehearsing with?
Her assistant.
So, and when you guys are working on this, when you were working on this movie, whether you're talking to Olivier or Juliet or whoever, did you have a target audience in mind? Like, are you saying, I hope these people see this movie and take X, Y, or Z away from it? Well, of course, but, you know, who did you want to be first in line, and what did you want them to walk away from it thinking or doing differently? Because I get the sense that it was made for a reason.
Oh, man. I think people that are interested in watching others work, and I don't just mean like for movies, but just watching anyone's process, anyone's compulsive process to get from like point A to point B. Some people don't have that feeling when they wake up and they go like, yeah, okay, here I am, I go to my job and I live my life and I have my friends and whatever. And then there are some people that are like kind of tortured by something in the most beautiful way. And I love movies about people making movies because I love that. And so I think first on the list for me would be those guys. But then further down the line from that, just like, you know, just generally, I think giving something, sharing your art, or sharing some expressive part of yourself takes a toll, and women are sensitive, and to see one woman at a certain stage of her life deal with another who's in a, you know, completely conversely different part of hers, and see that they can both really help each other and kind of enlighten each other in a certain way. And then also, like, I love the fact that they can't either, because sometimes your perspective's one thing and you just can never change it, and that's just what it is because that's how you feel and you're never going to be able to see anything differently. I would say just like it's I don't want to like exclude or men who are interested in women, but it's just like really it's interesting to watch. It's just interesting to watch two really differently spirited women talk about the same thing. It's rare. You never get to see that. You know, it's rare to be able to watch like such an indulgent thought process, and there aren't too many people interested in watching stuff like that. So just anyone who would be interested in stuff like that, it's probably for you.
Well, it's sad because it actually happened more, I think, during Hollywood's golden age, when you would have, you know, a movie like The Women or different ones where there's a lot of smart, developed female characters. Unfortunately, and I know this is like a big topic of discussion now, female directors are hard to come by, and developed parts. I mean, it's a big topic of discussion now. As somebody who wants to direct down the road, are you optimistic about that? Is it, you know, are things getting better at all in your experience? You've worked with a lot of female directors.
I think there have been incredible movies made from a female perspective, like from forever, but that they're still incredibly rare. And the reason we talk about the ones that are good is because they're rare and, you know, they stick out. And, you know, that's hard for me to speak to because I've been so lucky and like so stimulated. I've never had a moment that I wasn't like, you know, and this sounds wanky. There's no way to make this sound not completely wanky. But I've never not had a moment where I wasn't completely challenged or I didn't have opportunities in front of me that were really interesting and where I wanted to go. And I think that in the times that I have had those moments, if you're bored and you don't know what to do and you can't really find like where to put your energy, everyone who I really love and admire in my life is like, you know, they're not the type of women to like sit around and talk about the fact that there's nothing out for them. It's like, okay, well, go tell a story, dude. Go do something. And that sounds, again, really stupid because not all actors are going to be able to be in a position where they can just like go tell a story. This job requires a ton of other people and a ton of other really unique circumstances to actually do the job. I'm ass lucky, and so I have never experienced that. But I think it is getting better. I mean, there are really empowered, interesting women saying stuff. Focus on them, be inspired by them, and stop complaining about the fact that you don't have those opportunities. Like, make them. You know.
Well,
even if it's not about having them for like be huge and famous and like interesting, it's like if you're bored, then just don't be bored. Like go, you know.
The barrier for entry is pretty low these days. You know, anybody can go and make a movie, it seems. But one thing that I think is interesting is that, well, the movie asks a lot of questions about, as you say, growing older in public eye in Hollywood, or rather in the entertainment industry. What's your take on it as somebody who plans to be in this for the long haul? I mean, are you, does it scare you? Does it excite you? Because on the one hand, the story is a little bit, you know, Juliet's character is a little bit kind of threatened by the situation.
Oh, she's crazy though.
But she's a little crazy. But I mean, Juliet is playing the lead character in this movie. So, I mean, she's working, and you've worked with so many great actors.
It's crazy. I didn't mean like
yes,
that.
Yes, not Juliet. Stop calling Juliet anybody that was dialing to let her know. But no, but just to note, like Melissa Leo in Welcome to the Rileys, Julianne Moore, Still Alice, Jodie Foster in Panic Room. There's a lot of women who have, who you've worked with, who are examples of the fact that you can have a career that only gets better as it goes along. So what's your personal outlook for your work and your life in this business?
I think, you know, what anyone would really strive for was to feel, it sounds so totally inarticulate, not bored, you know, and not disappointed by the fact that as soon as you're not bored, that those things that always compelled you don't always need to be the same things. If this ceases to compel me, I will not be disappointed by the fact that I'm not an actor anymore, you know, or if I can't find an area to be. Basically, if I always feel the way that I feel right now, which is really just constantly expansively explorative with amazing people, just people that really facilitate that, and if that like left immediately, I would do something else, you know, yeah, who knows, man? I don't know.
Last question from me, and then we'll take 3 from the audience, I believe, and then set everybody free. But basically, what have you made of the fact that a movie that came out, I believe, in April here, that was on the film festival circuit last year, has found such sort of favor and an embrace at this point, all this time later, and particularly, you know, that your performance has had this kind of response that it's had. How does it feel to get some love?
Dude, it's awesome. I can't, it's weird. Yeah, I was like, I was really surprised by it, and like in the best way, you know? I've always been really, I'm so proud of everything that went into this. You know, I was able to meet Olivier, who directed the movie. We just did another movie together. So I've gotten to know him really in a much more, I've really gotten to know more of him, which makes me even more proud of this, you know, because now I'm like, yeah, dude, we did it. That's so cool. Like, even the Americans thought it was cool. Yeah, it was ages ago. It's a foreign film. It's really kind of diagonal in terms of story. It's not like the most straight down the line, easily digestible, entertaining movie. And it's also not like extreme and like, you know, drastic. And usually, like, you know, people in the States, people are like, oh, she got cancer and shaved her head and she's screaming and crying and it's like, oh, okay, well, that deserves some attention. So this was really surprising. I was like, you know, it's a sort of subdued, thoughtful meditation that we all had a good time doing, and I'm glad that everyone liked it. And that's great. Yeah.
Okay, we're going to you, but let's just say up front, no propositions, solicitations, any of that nonsense, job offers, job requests. Let's just go right to the question, sir.
First of all, thanks for being here. So while watching the rehearsal scenes this time around, something came to mind, the idea of staying in the moment as an actress, yet at the same time, you know, actors are always do. You know, they always draw from certain things. So the idea of staying in the moment, for you, is that some sort of paradox?
Yeah, totally. It's so weird. Yeah, it's such a paradox. It's like how you plan for months, and 100 people, 300 people plan for months to have a moment that you just become completely spontaneous within. It makes no sense. And so, in terms of preparation for this, I am not Valentine, but the moments where I felt closest to her and where I felt the most honest, and also just in the moments where I felt everyone was being surprised by a certain idea that we kind of already knew, but that we rediscovered and on screen, which is what the goal is. You feel closer to yourself. Like when you really, really, really find a moment that works, it's usually when you actually you're not stepping outside of yourself, for me at least. And it depends on what role, obviously. Like, I guess if you're playing somebody who's drastically different to you. But even in that case, most actors that I know and that I relate to could justify mass murder. Because if they're playing that part, then there are a million reasons why that person did that. And so it's like, you know what? They had a really fucked up childhood. And so that's just, I would do the same thing. So usually you kind of feel like you're getting as close to yourself as you possibly can. But yeah, it's weird, because I've also said the opposite. I've also been like, when you can really step outside of yourself. But I think mainly it's not about not being yourself. It's just about letting go of inhibition and awareness of the setup circumstance and finding the truth of why you're there. It's not about losing everything and just like not knowing where you are. It's getting rid of these little setup, logistical things and being able to. I stepped outside of my logistical self and I actually found myself for a second, like for real. And I didn't think about anything else but who was in front of me at that moment. For me.
I want to give somebody in the back a chance, the very last row by the exit door. Go ahead.
So I think Val is definitely the more interesting character, and for her to disappear unexplained is pretty upsetting. So two questions, and I don't know whether you want to answer the first one. What happens to her, or what do you think happens to her? Second,
That's the whole thing.
and second, why do you think Olivier, did you ask him, why would he want to piss us off like that? What happens?
Yeah, it's like, again, probably why it's surprising that the movie's being sort of somewhat acknowledged here, because it's frustrating to watch the movie, because when questions are asked and never answered, then you have to think for yourself. You're like, wait, what? But I don't know, dude. I think my answer to that question, which I actually don't know if I should, I think I've answered it, but it's a slippery slope, because again, I do want people to think for themselves. But and this is just me. Like, I don't know. Olivier might feel completely differently. We don't speak about stuff like this a lot, which is another weird, interesting thing. But I think that she was trying to get across this point of view her entire time knowing this woman. And Juliet's character is influenced by mine emotionally, but she doesn't listen. She doesn't listen to a word she says. And I think that the only way to really get her to hear her and actually, like, really, she knows she got her point across was just by shocking the shit out of her and leaving. And I don't think she falls off a cliff or anything crazy like that. I don't think she, like, jumps. I don't think she, like, runs off and dramatically, like, commits suicide. Who knows? Maybe she does. Maybe you think she does. But yeah, that was my answer for that, because I always really needed, I was like, obviously dying. I was just like, why, where does she go? In my mind, she goes back, and you don't see this, but she's in the back of the theater, like, watching the show, just to make sure, like, just curiously, like, I need to see that come to fruition. Yeah, I think it's like some people that just can't hear. You just need to show them in a different way.
So basically, there's going to be a sequel, right?
Yeah, it's called Valentine's Song.
Okay, let's get a female. Let's mix this up. I can't see. I hope this. I can't see from here, so I believe it's a female. Go ahead. Stage work was the question. Just so
yeah, I guess I have seen really, like, very, very little. So I think I would I need to see more of it. But even on set, like, if you have a bad crew, and I mean bad, people that don't care, people that are slow, people that are stupid, people that should not be where they are. Like, it really affects you. Like, it's the worst feeling, and it ruins everything. Like, there's just, energy is such a contagious and absolutely true thing. You know, actors that are able to be on the spot and produce authentic, honest work when they're affected badly by people, I look at them like, you are a crazy person. How are you doing this? Like, this is the worst mood on set. Like, how are you able to fake this right now? And so I think to feel that, like, with so many people and day after day have it be a different experience, I think I would really get off on that. And I think it would really pull something out of me. So I think, yes, but that I would need to watch a lot more because I just have no idea. Such a foreign concept for me. But like right now, I feel like I want to say yeah. You know what I mean? Like, yes, I would definitely want to do that. Yeah. All right.
Should do one bonus. I think we're running early. We'll do one bonus question, please. You went up first.
If you could create the set for the play, would you keep it the same as it was in the movie? Because I feel like it didn't really allow for the intimacy between the two characters that I felt.
You mean our set, like in Zильs-Marия, in the cabin, in the chalet?
In the, like, on stage, the set up on stage in the office.
Oh, at the end.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, I was surprised to see that too. It's like really extremely sterile, yeah. But at the same time, you know, like within a circumstance like that, like within that environment, something really charged and like stifled and angry and passionately emotional, whatever happens in a place like that, hot. And also like stifled, you know what I mean? That's like, I could see that, but I feel you. I know what you mean. I was always really curious about the play that would have resulted, like, because, you know, he wrote kind of like a bare sort of outline for what that play would have been like. And I think that probably in his head there was a lot more that we didn't know about. And so I'm really curious about what that play would have been for real. Like, I want to read Malaya Snake more than you could possibly know. But yeah, I never got to.